Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and coping with these relationships. And something that, you think the dream come true is that the narcissistic person in your life does go into therapy. You're like, great, great, we're going to make some forward progress. But then you find out they use the tools of therapy to dominate you again. Let's unpack that. Because that's the dream, right? They're going to get into therapy, they're going to start doing better, they're going to listen better and empathize more. So the big question is often, do narcissistic people go to therapy? The answer to that is yes. Now, the reasons they're coming into therapy are they're not coming into therapy saying, I want to be less narcissistic. When narcissistic people come into therapy, they're often coming in because something is going wrong in their lives. Relationship stuff, work stuff, maybe drug or alcohol use or addiction, anxiety, irritability, something gets them in. Then, once they start, they may actually keep going. That's never a bad thing. In good therapy, some shifts are always going to take place, right? The kinds of changes that the narcissistic person experiences may not be changes that you benefit from as their partner or their family member, but the ground does shift. And the therapist may even notice a few significant changes. But alas, as with all things in a narcissistic relationship, even them being in therapy can come back and bite you. So let's take a look at what that looks like. First, the narcissistic grandiosity can often mean that they think that now, after a few weeks of therapy, they're sort of healed and cured and they've learned everything they need to know, and they will lord it over you. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So they may learn about boundaries, for example, in therapy. Hang on to your hat, because they may very well weaponize that little shred of wisdom to control you further. Things like, hey, I expect you to do this and this and this in the relationship that I want you to do, like letting me watch TV while you clean up after dinner, or not having to be home to sign for that package. And then they'll turn around when you're like, I need some support. They'll say, they're going to say, I'm setting a boundary. Or better yet, if you were to express a very basic and fundamental need, like, can you come home a little earlier because we need to sign a form for the kids' school and get it done and in by 6 o'clock, they might say, nope, I'm going to set a boundary and say, no, I can't. They will take a concept of something like boundaries to be a place to basically double down on their entitlement and believe that they're doing something oh so smart and wise, when basically they're just being entitled but putting a different name on it. Second, what they may do is use their experience in therapy as a way for them to rationalize their mean, abrupt way of talking to you or even yelling at you. They may learn about things like clearer communication in therapy, probably not pay too much attention when the empathy part is being discussed, and then they will perhaps say something that is cold or clipped or just plain mean, and will then say, well, I am working on being clear in therapy and I was just very clear with you. Third, if you yourself are not presently in therapy, but they are, well, that will be a moment for them to extol the pristine nature of their mental health and how they're better than you. This is where they will often hit back with, I'm doing the work. It's almost as if they were going to the gym more often or eating a healthier diet. So when there was a moment between you and them, they would hit back with, well, I'm doing the work. And the corollary to that is often that they believe that you're not doing this proverbial work. Fourth, what they may do, and most likely it is a lie, they will commandeer or lie about what their therapist said and say, well, my therapist said that you are asking too much of me. Or they'll say, my therapist agrees that your anger issues are taking a toll on me. Or my therapist thinks you complain too much. Ooh, a little bit of triangulation there. It's the ultimate catch-22 because the therapist cannot legally talk to you, so the narcissistic person in your life could be making up stuff that they're alleging that the therapist is saying, or at the very least, taking what the therapist said out of context and basically using it as a gaslighting tool. If it doesn't ring true, then they are probably just twisting the words or fabricating them entirely. As always, disengage, ignore, and assume that that the therapist is not saying things like this. Fifth, they may even go a step further and use the therapist as an excuse for why they aren't improving within the relationship. You may wonder that now they're in therapy, that why things are not only not improving, but may feel as though they're getting worse. In a case like that, they may say things like, well, I don't feel safe with you, or you are an unsafe person, and my therapist said it was okay for me to hold back. Six, they may even virtue posture about being in therapy. They may yammer on about it as though they were the very first person in history who ever opened up to a therapist. This may not always happen, but you may still be experiencing the same toxic relationship as always, and they are walking around thinking that they have discovered fire for the first time and sharing with the world how brave they are for going into therapy. Bonus points if they start posting on Instagram about how brave they are for being in therapy. All of this is tough because it may have been your dream that the narcissistic person would go to therapy and you held out hope that things may even get better because you love this person, you care about them. Listen, the changes that happen in a narcissistic person in therapy, if any happen, they tend to be pretty small and often too small to make a difference in their relationships. And the old patterns will often surface immediately when there's a stressor or a disappointment or a disagreement. The therapist may notice some of the changes, but in real life it may not show up. And many, if not most, narcissistic folks may drop out of therapy when the therapist really pushes them on emotional stuff and accountability. But it can be heartbreaking when you think, okay, now there's a witness and that witness is going to call them out. But you know that a narcissistic person can not only keep it together for a while, be charming and charismatic, may even love bomb their own therapist, but may also be quite skilled at presenting only part of a picture. A good therapist will still need a few months to figure it out, but that may still be a few months when you feel things are getting worse and not better in your relationship at exactly a time you thought they would. And then it gets complicated because you might think, well, their therapist is saying these things or they're in therapy and maybe I need to allow them to communicate more directly even if it's hurting you. No healthy therapist, no skilled therapist is ever going to tell someone to do things that don't account for another person. Like I said, many, many narcissistic people will commandeer their therapy as a way to say, look how much better and healthier I am than this other person, which again is a gaslight. So hang in there. I understand the hope. I really, really do. And sometimes it basically comes down to the micro changes which the narcissistic person may make and which in the long run may improve them, which is a win, may not have come soon enough for you. I hope that helps, and thanks again.